Welcome, Miguel, to this part of the MOOC. Very happy to have you here. We've known each other for quite a while already, but I guess that the teachers who are watching this obviously don't know you. So could you please introduce yourself to them?
Well, thank you very much, Bulo. Very happy to be here as well. Well, my name's Miguel. As you already said, I teach English to students or to Spanish students of all ages, kids, teenagers, even adults. And this is the second year in a row that I've been teaching that all my students have dyslexia, but I've been teaching neurodivergent students for more or less 4 years also. So.
Yeah, wonderful. So, okay, let's focus then more on dyslexia because obviously it's also the most prevalent neurodivergent conditions that teachers in the course will know this by now or should know this by now, at least. But I guess that some of your students also have ADHD, maybe a little bit autism, maybe overlapping or comorbid conditions as well. In your experience, what makes it so different to teach a neurodivergent student? Because I guess you also have experience or previous experience from teaching other neurotypical students. But what makes it different to teach these students?
Well, yes, that's true. I've had neurotypical students earlier, and the thing that I found most different is that each of my neurodivergent students, dyslexic students, each of them have a world of their own, right? They each see the world in a different way. They make connections in different ways. And the most difficult thing is to find how they make these connections and learn how to teach each of them differently, right? You never know what's going to click with them, and you need to spend time to get to know each one individually to learn how to teach them, what they like, how they think. And another thing is that they are normally not used to adapt to others' way of thinking because they haven't realized that that's the main difference between them and other people. And they are usually forced to adapt to normally their teacher's way of teaching. And it becomes a frightful experience I've seen. Many are, it's like some kind of PTSD, and that's what makes it so different. Yes, you have to adapt. You have to be very fluid with them.
Yeah, yeah. I understand it. That I always also describe dyslexia, well, any neurodivergent condition as a different way of the brain in processing the information it receives. And actually what you're saying, it's many different ways of processing the information the brain receives. Every student has their own neurodivergent way of processing. And with that in mind, um, when a teacher asks you, as any of the teachers on this course would ask you, so what is the one thing that I would need to do? There's only one thing I could do to change or to help my students, or one thing where I could start. What would it be?
Hmm. Well, I've experienced that it's going to be very difficult to spend enough time with each student to learn how they process information and adapt to it. So I would say that the most important thing that they need to take advantage of whatever you are teaching them is to let them know exactly what you expect from them at any given time. They need to have crystal clear instructions all the time, because if not, even if they trust you and they're confident to ask any questions to you, if they don't understand a task, if they don't know what they are doing or why they are doing it, they would just sit there and wait for more instructions. That's what they do. So they need to know exactly what is expected from them at any given time. That is I would say that's the most important adaptation you can make in your classrooms.
Very interesting. Also because it's one of the main things for students with ADHD as well. They're very clear instructions. And I like it actually what you say that if you don't give them clear instructions, they will just wait for more instructions. that probably means that you have a good relationship with your students, because I think otherwise they would just do something and see if that's the right thing that needs to be done, or being extremely anxious about is this the right thing, but I'll just do it. It's a very important thing. Apart from this, so apart from, let's say, teachers, okay, well, I'll start with being crystal clear with what I expect or what I want from my students and how I want them to do certain things. Can you give us maybe two, three, four, whatever other quick takeaways, accommodations that you go like, yeah, these are very specific and they work really well for my students?
Right. So one of the most important things, as I've mentioned, is having a purpose, because I found that many students, if they don't see a purpose on why would they learn English, what's the reason, what am I going to use this for later? Why am I learning this? If they don't have that motivation, they just come to class, they do the exercises, and they go, and the next time they have forgotten everything, because there's no, it doesn't make any sense for them. It's just something to fill in the brains. Then something that's very important also is having always the same routine. They need to know what's coming after all the time, and if there's an explanation, then an exercise, and then a game to relax, you have to follow always the same routine. That's very, very important. And then in terms of adapting the materials that you use, what I usually find that is most effective is leaving enough space between lines to help them follow the text better, and not cluttering the pages of the materials, because I find that they need to physically see the difference between the concepts that they are studying. Otherwise, they get distracted, they mix things up. And I would say those are the most important things. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Very, very important, but I think also very easy to implement. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel here, you know?
Exactly.
It's no rocket science.
Exactly.
It's many times it's common teaching sense, but not always implemented in that way. Um, you were talking about making stuff relatable for the students, about students being a little bit like, I think you mentioned before the PTSD, you know, like wow, it's a lot of emotions playing up here as well. What, in your experience, what is the influence on self-esteem on these students? Because your students are teenagers, I guess, maybe young adults as well. What is the role of self-esteem?
Well, it's essential that they have good self-esteem, and that they perceive themselves as capable of doing anything that they want. Because if not, they're not going to perform well. They're going to close their minds, and it's like, I don't know if you've seen this film, The Wall by Pink Floyd, the film. They're going to build a brick wall around themselves and not let anybody in, and that's it. They won't take any interest in learning anything, because they won't see the point in anything. They're just going to suffer mentally, right? If you are constantly telling them that they're not good enough. So you need to do exactly the opposite. You need to celebrate every little success with them, to make them feel encouraged. And if they fail at any exercise, if they fail an exam or anything, you just need to encourage them to find what was it that they did wrong, why they did it wrong, and just do it in a different way until they find the way to make it correctly, to do it correctly. So it's essential that the self-esteem is in a good state for them.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely. It's adamant that they have a healthy self-esteem.
Mhm.
Um, Teachers many times ask me, and maybe teachers here on the MOOC as well, they might ask, yeah, okay, but isn't this going to be extra work for me? Because obviously you say you work with only dyslexic students right now, and maybe ADHD and autism, so only neurodivergent students. But obviously the teachers taking this course, taking this MOOC, they will have mixed ability classrooms. So that there might be like 10, 15, as we said in the course, 10 to 15% of the population dyslexia, 20% neurodivergent. 1 in 5 students might have a brain that works in a more spicy, more funny way, neurodivergent. Would you say that this is something very specific for dyslexic learners, or do you think this also works for the rest of your of students? So would it be something like it? Would you say to a teacher, well, hey, you have to do this for your neurotypical students, and what we just talked about for the other 20%, or hey, if you do this for the 20%, it actually works for the whole classroom. What is your experience here?
Absolutely, it would work for the whole classroom. In the end, even if we call some people neurodiverse and some people neurotypical, uh, even neurotypical people, they each have their own way of thinking. So in the end, by not adapting to anyone, you are adapting to everyone. If you think it like that. In fact, my way of teaching hasn't changed much from before I started focusing on neurodiverse students. It's just now that fortunately I can work with smaller groups and I can pay more attention to each student individually. But any of the things that we've been talking about work as well with neurotypical students, of course. You don't have to do something special for neurotypical and something special for neurodivergent.
Beautiful. More reasons for teachers to do this and to start implementing these strategies. Apart from this, maybe already being reason enough for teachers to do this. What do you think is the most important reason why a teacher should you from teacher to teacher? If a teacher says to you, "Okay, Miguel, come on, why do I need to do this? Why should I adapt to my neurodivergent students or learn about this?" What would you say?
Well, I would answer not only from teacher to teacher, but from professional to professional, from person to person. We are always trying to improve, right? At anything that we like doing. And we are teachers because we love teaching. So if there's a way to do it better, why not, right? If you learn to do something more difficult than you're used to, then when you go back to your usual field, you will be better than you've always been, right? So
Exactly.
That's what I would tell that.
Yeah. Wonderful. I think it's a beautiful message to give teachers on this MOOC. I thank you very, very much, Miguel. And I always say, long live the dyslexic brain.
Long live dyslexic.
Thank you.